Welcome to episode 3 of Black Girls Talking TV. In this episode, we're going to be diving deep into Harlem. We're going to be breaking down episodes 3 and 4, unpacking all the drama, the growth, and the exciting moments. So sit back and join us.
We are Black Girls Talking TV. We're bringing the group chat to life and discussing your favorite TV shows. We drop weekly episodes. Currently, we're watching Harlem and The Bachelor. And in February, we're going to start Love is Blind. So be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can get updates when we get new episodes. I am Kamaria. I'm a lawyer and a pop culture writer. And I will let these lovely ladies introduce themselves.
I'm Chinyere. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based in London with a virtual presence in Virginia.
And I am Victoria. I am a psychologist in the state of New York and Illinois. And I am also so excited to be here and just remind us all how important mental health is, and while we're breaking down all of the drama.
That's on point right there.
Alrighty, so let's dive right on in. We're gonna start with our girl Quinn. Let's just get right into it. The bombshell. Sex. Heavy. We know Kamara is not a fan of him aesthetically, and that's okay. But in terms of his character in the show, what are we thinking, guys?
I like Seth. I like him. I think he's sweet to Quinn. He's showing her a good time. He's putting her on to help boost her career. I like how he's really showing up for her. I like Seth. I know last episode I was all for them working out, but now I'm feeling I don't know. I don't know if I like them together, but I still like him.
Yeah, I don't like him. You like him? Everybody like him. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
I thought I was just like, I ain't like that. But go ahead. You go say what.
I mean, he seems like he's a very intentional man. Now, do we like his preferences and his choices? Because it seemed like he's poly leaning. Oh,
Right.
calling her bae at the end. I mean, we don't know what's about to come out of that.
I love you. He said, I love you. So I'm like, two women that you, what is this? I mean,
this is giving poly for sure, right? Because with poly, you can develop these emotional attachments to multiple people. And I just felt like I saw this coming because Quinn was like, I'm here, I'm doing my thing. I can not have feelings. Blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, Quinn, do you remember who you are? Right? She forgot who she was. And I was just like, as soon as he got out of bed talking about, hey, babe, I said, oh, this man, he does love you. And he loves multiple other women. And he thinks that you're probably doing the same thing, but she tried.
But I mean, she did introduce herself into this relationship as someone who wasn't looking for something serious. She said she's just trying to have fun. And so I do feel like because she led with that, it kind of opened up the doors for I accept any and everything, which we discussed you don't do when you're a romantic, when you love, and you're trying to be intentional about who you love and have that a part of this new wave of your love life. You can't be in here just.
I feel like all of us as women, we all have that in us. It's just a scale, a spectrum. And so I thought they were about to set it up like, oh, this is going to be happily ever after for Quinn. And this, she's going to easily fall into love with him through this no strings attached thing. And I was like, I don't like that narrative for us as women, because I think ultimately it's normal for us to feel these moments of like, oh my God, I'm sitting here giving all this energy and giving all of my body, opening myself to anything, any surprises. And I don't have security in like that this person will be here. I don't have security in that they want what I want. It's just, it's just temporary. And I don't think women as a whole do well with temporary, because as Camille can see, we get stuck with the baby. You got to deal with it. You can't, get out of it. So I feel like that's Mother Nature being like, bing, 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 bing. What's happening? Where's the commitment? What is he doing? You know what I mean? Because you have to protect yourself in a lot of different ways, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I guess this is her first go around at doing what They didn't really she didn't clarify whether it was gonna be long term or short term, it was just casual, right? And I think you
Right.
have to get a little bit more clarity on, like, what that looks like. I mean, of course, in the episode, it was like, oh, she realized she had feelings, and then that night she found out that he loved someone else, but I also feel like you gotta be more try to be more in tune with how your feelings are developing. Right. So then
Absolutely.
when you catch that, when you feel like, oh, I'm starting to like evolve more emotionally and I have not updated this person on how like I've shifted and what I want in a relationship, you can have that conversation. I mean, of course, this is a show, and so it's short term for her. Like it happened, oh, I'm telling Camille in the morning, and that night we're like, we love each other. Um, do you all think he was in the wrong?
Yes.
Yeah, he did inform her at the at the very front. I feel like if you are the type of person to be into polyamory, like let's let it be known, right? Like
Mhm.
you're coming in very, and it's not like he came in on the
Oh,
games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he came in and was like, "Oh, I'm finna take care of you, boo." He was showing her that good men do exist.
Mhm.
And so if you're gonna do
Yeah.
all of that and be all of that, and you know that there is a potential for this woman to start liking you despite what she told you in the beginning, most
Mhm.
definitely be upfront about it. And definitely don't have me find out because you're up in my bed and then this
right.
woman calls you and you saying, "Hey babe," after you
Yeah.
just told me you love me, because you're gonna have to get on.
I have a question though, because I actually thought you were talking about when you said, "Do we think he's wrong?" I thought you were talking about like how this whole drama came to Quinn's doorstep in the first place. Like, I don't
Mhm.
like whatever was happening. I'm not clear as to whether the girl was lying or whether he was lying. But whatever the case may be, I feel like he kind of brought this drama to her doorstep, and
Yeah.
You
I
talking about
didn't
with the
like.
other stylist?
Yeah, with the other stylist,
Oh, oh,
and
oh,
Yeah.
oh.
so I didn't like that, but I do feel, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I do feel like Quinn got herself into this by, like, being not like, what is this? Like, she was like, "We're exclusively exclusive." I wrote it down, I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah,
is
yeah.
this?
Confusion.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
what we all think is going on, exclusively, non-exclusive, baby, that don't exist, baby. Is you in a relationship? Are you committed or are you not?
Yeah, so
Mhm.
I don't fault him for how I do think it was a trip, because it's like y'all 8 months and you're talking about you love somebody. I think that when you're wrong, he is wrong for like saying I love you. I feel like when you start introducing to a casual situation heavy words like that, and the person is not informed about like what's happening around you, I think you have some
Yeah.
more responsibility to that. But I also feel like Quinn stepped her foot up in this. I think she had to take some responsibility for that, as a whole, to me. But yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do think that as soon like you said, as soon as you start saying things like "I love you," or, "I'm trying to put a baby in you," like, saying things like that, like,
Right.
yeah, it's time for you to begin to disclose, like,
Got to
"I
take that
am
first.
poly." I understand at the beginning you may have not done that because you all are not exclusive, but now that you're saying these, like, commitment type words, you need to
Mhm.
let someone know that you're poly. And then just a side note, I know several people that are poly, and they tend to be, like, ready to give you the world. They're not F-boys, right? Like, they actually are quite they're quite, like, committal in a way, right? They're
Yeah.
committal in a particular way. I mean, you
I think
can
it seems
have
unnatural if it's not something you agree with.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
Maybe I'm being very judgmental right now. I'm not trying to.
And but that's okay. That's how you feel, right? Like you're
yeah,
allowed to feel how you feel. It's not like
yeah,
your lived experience, and you don't want it to be your lived experience. And I think it's hard to wrap yourself around, right? Like it's not something that we've ever seen, right? To
mhm,
even get used to or to feel is normal.
yeah,
I
Um,
mean, I do know people who are who are poly, or who have had poly, marriages and things like that, and done really beautiful things. So I'm not against poly. I do feel though that there's this new wave of like it's really just an alternative for being non-committal. It allows you to kind of just be non-committal to people who may be looking for something that's different than what you're looking for.
yeah, he definitely should have told her though. He
yeah,
knew this is, and I do feel like when you are a man who is poly, you know what you know a woman's emotions, right? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like out of all the things, like men who are poly, they know how to play on women's emotions because you have to know how to manage multiple women's emotions at one time.
Mhm.
And so I think there is a level of deception and manipulation that comes with not being upfront about that as you are dating or evolving your relationship. And now you're at the stage where you're saying, I love you.
Mhm.
He knew better. He knew better. He knew Quinn was getting wrapped up around that finger. He said, "Oh,
Mhm.
once I got her, then I'll let her know." And
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was
I
not
mean,
cute.
I mean, he didn't even let her
technically,
know.
right, he hasn't let her know. I mean, technically, he hasn't done anything wrong in the sense of the agreement, the very bleak agreement that
Yes,
they
very
kinda put together.
initial agreement.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
you're
initial agreement. But things change,
yes.
right? And so this is why, like, I think it's so important to continually check in your
Yeah,
relationship. Are you satisfied? You know, this initial agreement we had, does it still work for you? Like
yes,
periodically having that conversation because we do shift and change throughout the relationship. Our emotions do, what we want changes. And we don't always come back to those conversations. We have the assumption someone is moving in the same way at the same pace that we are. And I think Quinn thought that when they were snuggled in bed until she heard him get up.
yeah. And I was just reminded not so long ago that conversation is a feedback loop. And
Mhm.
sometimes we do not want to have conversations because it seems confrontational when we're asking for what we want or when we need to express what our expectations are, but it's a loop, right? Like you have to
Mhm.
continue to have conversations as things are evolving, as things are changing. Otherwise, we're just left to assume what you're thinking, right? Or
Yeah.
assume what the other person is thinking, and then you get into these situations where now it's,
Yeah.
it's not fun anymore. It's not healthy anymore.
Tamara, you
No.
looking like, nah, this ain't for me. Like,
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
was wild though. I said, "Oh, the episodes are moving kind of slow, like we're calming down with all of the
then it
intensity."
was
And
like,
then that happened, and Mike
uh-huh.
Charles was
I
clutched.
know.
Okay, I
I,
said, "Oh, we just ain't gonna get a break."
yeah, and you know what? To be honest, like the thing for me that bothers me about like men dating, quote unquote, being polyamorous, is that I'm okay if you do it and you getting married. You got, these women, you taking care of them or whoever, y'all in something committed.
Right,
Mhm.
I do not like this little just free effing around because it feels like it's just another name for I don't want to be tied down. I don't. It just feels like immaturity all over the place. Like
Mhm.
I'm all for people opening up and being like in multiple relationships. Like I said, I know a multiple like a polyamorous relationship. I know folks who have done it. And to be honest, one of the things that the first wife has said was that it was not her husband's decision, it was her decision because
Mhm.
she knew what she was trying to do with like building, wealth and institutions and things like that. And so she knew she wasn't about to be able to have all these kids. So she initiated the conversations. She
mm,
drove the process.
Mhm.
And that I can get behind because
Mhm.
a lot of it, I feel like when men lead that like polyamorous thing, it's just an open door for foolishness, to be
mm,
honest. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's an opportunity for women to like really enforce their boundaries. Like number one, know what your boundary is and then enforce it. Because I do think that if you don't, then you can be kind of pulled into this foolishness or I'm poly and this and that. But if you're a woman and you say, hey, okay, I'm open to trying out poly, and then you realize, oh, my emotions are evolving, his are not, you gotta cut it off. Right.
cut
Like
it off.
you
Yes.
can't wait for him to do it. He's not gonna do it. He's enjoying himself. He says it's what he wants to do. And so I do think it's an opportunity, for women to recognize like I don't have to wait for the guy to end it. Right. I can
Right.
enforce my boundary. I can set a boundary and enforce it. He
Repeat
doesn't
that,
have
Chi
to be.
Chi.
I don't have to wait for a guy to end it, right? I can set a
Yes.
boundary and enforce it. And I think that's really important because if not, you will kind of get dragged around and then be feeling like, oh, I'm the victim here or someone has really mistreated me. And yeah, there probably is some mistreatment, but also there's like an awakening of like, oh, like I can say no. I
Yes.
have an empowerment, like I can empower myself here and say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Not the relationship I'm wanting. So another thing that I had to say about Quinn, and it might be a little controversial, but I just didn't care for old girl calling her out online and then trying to be like, you're not in solidarity with the sisters. And I'm like, girl, this is about business. This is about money. And she didn't poach your client. He walked over there free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, you can't be mad if for some reason you didn't show up in some way for your clientele and they decide I'm going to go where the business is better. And then try to kind of pull this like black card sisters or, we're supposed to be in solidarity with each other. And I just kind of felt like that's a reach, that's a stretch. And then Quinn even being like, oh, I'm going to let him go. And I'm like, girl,
Like, girl,
I wouldn't even address that online. Like,
Oh,
I didn't.
well, they were dragging her.
But I also feel like the problem with like cancel culture is that people have become so censored, right? Like you can't really share how you truly feel. And it doesn't
No.
just like you're not just like censoring yourself online, but I feel like you're just censoring yourself in your life, period. And sometimes I feel like you got to live life like you already been canceled. And that is not my quote. That is Africa Brooks' quote in her book. You should read it. But like live your life like you've already been canceled, right?
love
Like we've
that.
gotten so like censored in everything that we do. And
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't, that's how I felt about that situation. I mean, great. Quinn did what she did for her business. I'm glad she stood up for herself and didn't necessarily put it off on him to fix it. But I just kind of felt like that's a reach. This has nothing to do with like Black girls and solidarity. This is just about business. Your client wasn't happy and went where they were.
Right. It was giving the whole like when a man is cheating and then you get mad at the girl, like what you mad at me for? He
Yeah.
Right.
came over here. I didn't ask him to come over here. Like
Mhm.
what you coming over here getting mad at me for, ready to put your paws up? Like pipe down. Let's address the
Yeah.
issue, you know?
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I definitely agree with you. Gotta live life like you already canceled, honey, because the people pleasing will get you anywhere.
Mm-mm, it won't. And Quinn, I thought that was her whole like glow up. Like I'm not people pleasing no more.
Right, right, right,
Right.
right. Talking about acting light skin.
Oh, that was funny. Oh goodness. So what did you all think about Ty? Like Ty's growth in this episode, this relationship? Like, what are you all thoughts?
I love Ty's relationship. I feel like that's the best relationship thus
Mhm.
far.
Yes.
And I loved it. And what's the most realistic? It's the most realistic and the best.
Mhm.
Yeah, best.
Yes.
Um, but it's the most realistic because I felt like everything that they were kind of going through is what um is what a lot of people do go through. So I
Yeah.
was feeling this, like the criticism, not being able to take criticism. Psh, psh, psh. How many of us have run into one of them?
That's real. That's real.
Woo, child.
Yeah,
Like,
homegirl is holding her accountable.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
it. And it's a good representation that like you can heal in love. Love is
Mhm.
healing, especially when it's
Yeah.
healthy, when it's accountable, right? When it's reciprocal. You can heal in love, y'all. The whole narrative of you have to be a whole person before you get in a
No.
relationship. I mean, it would be nice, but we're always evolving and growing as human beings. And so somebody who's willing to meet you where you are and
Yeah.
encourage your growth, encourage your weak points,
Mhm.
remind you how strong you truly are. I love to see it. I'm melting in my chair for time.
Yeah, I was too. That whole scene where she actually went back to her girlfriend's house to apologize. That was really beautiful. I loved it. It was like,
Yeah.
we all like our emotions come online and like things happen, we say things we don't mean, but like to come back and actually like apologize, acknowledge it, and to explain like this is where this was coming from, with me. I don't want you to see me in this particular way because I love you and I don't want to be vulnerable. And I thought that was really beautiful. It was a lovely moment. It
Yeah.
made me melt too. I was like, oh, we can't help but love this
Yes.
relationship.
Can't help but love it. At first, I was like, "No, not the business and pleasure ties. Stay away, girl. You're trying to grow and not do these things." But this is
Mhm.
unfolding in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So do you actually think that she's gonna fly home? When I saw that she was looking at tickets, well, first of all, I didn't actually know that bit about her story, right? That she hadn't actually came out to her parents, and I felt really like sad. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like you're so successful, like all the things that you've accomplished, and you haven't like been home to see your family. Like, do they know, like who you are, what you're doing? Like, yeah, I don't know. I felt I didn't know that about her, like her story.
Yeah, I
And
thought she just
so
left the husband. I didn't know it was
yeah.
everybody. I'm like,
Everybody,
you
I know.
excommunicated yourself.
I
Yeah.
will say that one of the things I wrote down when I was watching it was this. I was like, somebody who could leave their whole family, they could leave you too. Like that, if I was her, I would have been a little red
No.
flag to that, to be honest. Like, I don't, and I guess when we get to Angie's situation, we'll talk about Mike and I don't know what's happening with his family either, but
Mhm.
it seems to be kind of pain there. And pain here too. But
Mhm.
it seems to be more of a voluntary choice on her part with this. And
Yeah.
so, and I think that ties into Ty's whole character, to be honest, like the
Yeah.
non-committal, emotionally distant. It's like, it's all a thread. I loved, let me find it. I wrote it down, but I loved what, what's the girl's name? Her
I know
girlfriend.
that girl's name, the girlfriend. What is her name?
Oh, I
Mm.
don't know.
I don't know.
I feel
But
like they said it in the first episode and they ain't said it again.
I know, right? She said, sex is not the root of your issues. Totally agree with that. She said, celibacy is not, is a cosmetic fix. And
Oh,
Mhm.
we
yeah.
told her, I said, girl can have sex and still, be healing.
Mhm.
However, I feel like when she said like sex is not the root of your issues, like she's so on point because it is something deeper, and it's a tree that's like got all these branches in all these areas of her life, especially her love life,
Yeah.
um where she's like just not being available, and she's cutting herself off from people in ways. And I
Mhm.
think that she learned how to, because like if you learn how to do that from your initial attachment,
Mhm.
like that's your initial attachment, your family that you were born into. And if you could do that, you could do that to anybody. So that would scare me as the girl. But
Yeah.
she's like marching ahead. She's like, it doesn't matter, Ty, but not in a silly way, because I think she's calling Ty out for
Yeah.
sure. And I think that's what her saving grace is going to be, is
Right.
that her saying like, hey, you have this, I see it, and you need to address it. I will be here with you while you do that. But these are the things that I'm seeing in you. And I think that sometimes, like us as women, we don't always do that. But I think that that's kind of like our role a little bit, not our role, but like, let me not say that, because I don't think we should be doing the emotional labor of men. But I think sometimes
Mhm.
we see things that they may not see, and sometimes we just like deal with it,
Yeah.
because like, oh, he doesn't do this, or he's not like that because of this and this and that. We empathize with it,
Mhm.
saying, hey, being that mirror, saying, hey, you gotta like look at this. You gotta
Mhm.
fix that. If you're trying to be with
Absolutely.
me, you gotta fix that. And that's what I think that she did. What she does very well. And I also think that it may be because they're not a heterosexual couple, that there may not be
Yeah.
those like gendered differences in terms of like vulnerability and
Mhm.
and you know just being willing to be bold and be vocal.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do that with men, and we may
And
do
that
that with our. So
Yeah, and that's what I was to, like, touch on your point about them not being, like, a heterosexual couple. I think that's part of why maybe that, like, her, like, cutting off her family didn't, like, trigger, like, a, warning sign, because I feel like sometimes that can be a part of, like, people's stories, like, coming out stories, like, they haven't came out, or they haven't came out to everyone, or, sometimes that, is a part of happens during the relationship, and so that may be something that she's familiar with in past relationships, or even, well, I guess not in her own, because she did share her coming out story, but that also could just be a norm and,
yeah,
not, yeah, heterosexual
Right, right,
relationships.
right.
So,
Yeah. Ty did said my homophobic parents. So there's
yeah,
there's like real fears, with that.
yeah,
Um and so it might make it a little bit more understandable. But she did have pause. She was like, so you just left instead of having the tough conversation,
she did.
you know?
Yeah,
So she recognizes the pattern, like you avoid
yeah.
the tough things, and that's not gonna work here.
Yeah,
So
and it happened real time for them, right? And I
yeah.
think that it did happen, and they were able to repair, and hopefully a little
Mhm.
bit of, like, healing happened there for Ty, Yeah.
Love
I
it.
definitely think she's gonna go to see her family. Like,
I
Yeah.
hope she does, yeah. But well, I mean, I hope she does, but I hope it's not like
a bad
traumatizing.
response.
Like I
Yeah.
right, like I hope it's not like reopening up a womb or like creating a new womb. Like that's the only thing. But I
Right.
mean, if I would love for it to be a beautiful story. I guess we'll see how they have it unfold. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So Angie, like she wants her big production. Mike doesn't. Is she tripping? Does Mike have a point? Like, where are we with this? And they have other things, but at least on the question of the wedding, what are y'all thoughts?
Baby, his insecurities cannot get in the way of Angie. Like, I'm gonna assume part of what Mike was drawn to with Angie was her very big personality, her colorful,
Mhm.
bubbly, you know, she's like unafraid. So for you to be like, have all of this pause because of what you got going on and what you got going on and did not discuss prior.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no. Right there, that when he was all like, "You just so busy, you didn't even ask what," and I'm like, hold up, hold up, hold up. Did you tell?
Right.
Okay, ain't
Did
nobody's
you
got here to read your
tell?
mind. Like, did you tell
Right.
her that like I don't
Right.
want to have a big wedding because my family
Yes.
Mhm.
and I are separated. Like men sometimes will put that thing. Well, look at me, girl. I got the like I ain't got time. Y'all know I can tell I'm frustrated right now. I'm like,
That's
I'm
why
not
it's pissing
trying
you
to come.
off.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say, but like I guess I sometimes like I come from a very like a good family of men. Like Victoria knows my dad.
Mhm.
Shout out to Baba Hopkins.
Yeah, like and I have brothers. Like they're good
Mhm.
men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The men,
Mhm.
my uncles, my mother's best friends' husbands, like all these men, they are so good. I love them. They are just highest moral character I've ever experienced in my life, like hands down.
Mhm.
These people we run into on the streets, they don't hold a candle. And so when I
No.
speak out a little frustration, I'm not trying to be down on the guys or act like that none of them uh are good or anything like that. But it's
Mhm.
too often that I feel like Black women are seeing and experiencing like just immaturity,
Yeah.
experiencing things that are not like lack of emotional maturity, especially emotional intelligence. And I understand that like everybody's not where everybody, it's a process, it's a journey,
Mhm.
but it's a little, it can get frustrating at times. So
Yeah.
take all what I say as a grain of salt. It's not trying to be against the guys. Like I said, I have very, very good men in my
Yeah.
family, like very. And I think that's what sets up sometimes me being like, hold up, what is this over here? Because I know the capacity
Mhm.
for men to stand in their manhood and be good to us and be,
Yeah.
good to themselves, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
so with
real.
him, I wasn't feeling that like putting the blame. I wasn't feeling a lot of things, but putting the
Yeah.
blame on her
Yeah.
for not knowing. It's like, no, open up your mouth and speak, please.
Yeah. I think he is letting his insecurities, run the show a bit. I think some of it is concern for Angie and her career and things like that. And then I think a little bit of it's his insecurities. And I think you're right. Like you have to what is the thing that attracted me to my partner? Am I now like wanting to dampen that because I maybe feels threatening to our relationship?
Mhm.
You have to be able to check that. I also will say, I agree with you, Kamaria, around it's two ways, right? Like she could have asked, you also could have said, I don't want a big wedding because. And I kind of feel like sometimes like because Angie does have a really big personality, right? She takes up a lot of space. And so I think you have to be mindful of that if you're in relationship with someone who does not, then that can become your dynamic. And so he has to be willing to take up more space and she has to be willing to kind of, she lean
Give
out a
him.
bit, he lean in a bit, right? Like they have to be
Right.
able to do that dance a bit. Cause when she came to kind of let him know, like, hey, actually, I love this show. I want to do it. I love getting paid. She puts the card in his mouth. Side note,
Mhm.
would have never done that.
Yeah, okay, we ain't giving it back.
But listen, I can work and spend your money, right? Like I don't.
This be true. I love my job, and I will take this
Right,
car.
and I will spend your money,
I
right?
don't think I need it. I don't think I need it.
Exactly, right. But then he was like, "Well, Angie," and then she was like, "Shh." You know, I mean, I love Angie, right? I love it. But I was like, "Girl, you gotta let him
Let him
talk
speak.
sometimes, right?
Right.
Let him."
And I wanted to know, what are you gonna say? Because he don't say nothing. I'm like, this man
Yes.
is talking. He don't hardly say nothing. Let me hear what
Right,
he's gonna say.
right. Let him talk a
But it
bit.
makes sense, right? Like why
Yeah,
he's so eager to like settle down and have a family. We don't know what
yeah,
that trauma is, but
Yeah.
when he said that, I was like, okay, it makes sense why he's trying to dive all in, and maybe why
mhm,
he was like so headstrong, and like maybe this is why they haven't had important conversations, and he's just like going with the passion of it all, and he's like, well,
yeah,
Too.
this is passionate, this feels good, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it, like this is gonna be my wife. And he skipped so many steps that are important to like why he wants to do this. And so
yeah,
I hope through the breakdown of this, and hopefully the rebuilding of this, like he gets that opportunity to explain like what his background is, where he's coming from, why he wants the family, and
Mhm.
like they can come up with a compromise if this is what
Mhm.
they're going to choose, because we still don't
yeah.
know if they're compatible for real, for real. But yeah, go ahead, Kamaya.
I was about to say that on the flip side, like I got thoughts on him. I have thoughts about Angie too. I don't think she's compromising enough. Like at a certain point, you have to realize is this person is what's more important? Is it the person or is it this experience that you want to have?
Mhm,
And if it's the experience, no judgment, do you and be like, yeah, no, you're not, or not the experience, but like just this way you want to live. If that's too important for to compromise for him, then go ahead and go down that path of like
mhm,
wanting to live a very, you're the star of it, go down that path and find things that align with that. But I think if you're going to be here with somebody like him, you gotta compromise. Otherwise, it
mhm,
gets to be an erasure of him. Because I
Yeah.
started to realize, like, the reason why they're together, this is he is the quiet guy, the quiet nice
mhm.
guy who likes the bubbly life of the party woman, and she likes him because he lets her take up space.
Right.
And it's like I think that's their dynamic right now that
Yeah.
I'm starting.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to have somebody like that, it's like part of loving and caring for somebody who's going to be a little bit more quiet, a little bit less vocal, or a little bit
Mhm,
less demanding and pushy and loud or whatever. You
mhm.
need to pause and take care of this person's needs as well, you know?
Yeah,
And
Mhm.
so
yeah.
I thought it was a very valid reason for him not wanting to have a huge wedding. But it also is like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Can we not have the separate families on the separate aisles? Just have it all
Right,
mixed
right,
in
right. Let it all mix
Right.
in.
color. Like, it's just,
When
what
he
is
said
that?
that, I was like, "Just move some of her people over," because Angie is over inviting, right? Like,
Right,
just
right, right.
move some people over, right? But I agree
Yeah.
with you. It's
Also,
a
get
part
to
of
know
that
her
dance.
family. Like, get to know her family so they feel like they're your
Yeah,
family too, right? If that is a void that you have in your life. Um, yeah,
yeah.
it's really sad though. My heart broke a little bit for Mike when he said that. I was like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
he's such a
I
nice
start to
guy.
feel for him as a character and start to be like, okay, he got some depth coming on to
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Right.
It's something
We're
there.
starting to finally, like, see, like, some depth in their relationship because before, like you were saying, Victoria, I was like, "Are they even compatible?" Now, like you were naming Kamari, I'm like, "Okay, I see this dynamic. I understand why they were drawn to each other." And that's great maybe when y'all out and about, but you're gonna have to find a balance for, like, to make this a really satisfying relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they all need couples therapy. Calling
Uh,
Chi Chi in, okay?
you know, I'll think about what he said to her about the
About
play.
the show, the play. Yeah, I didn't really
Um,
like that. Like I think it came from a place of not understanding, right?
mhm,
Like he's taking it as like that seems so silly and like beneath you.
mhm.
Why are you talking about drugs in your booty hole? But he's never seen Hairspray to know like that's like or whatever it was, girls trip, right? Yeah, yeah,
Perfect,
girls
yeah.
trip. I don't know why I was thinking Hairspray. Girls trip to know that that's like a pivotal part, of the movie or whatever.
Mhm.
So Yeah, I didn't like it, especially because then it affected her. I wasn't feeling that at all.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I think that's where he allowed his insecurities to really take over because it wasn't just that he like just said it. He was like, matter of fact, you don't even need to work. Take my
Right.
card. And I
Right,
was
right,
like,
right.
sir, come on now. Like,
Yeah, and then
Angie
put it up
wants to work.
against his experience. I'm sorry, Jen, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to cut
No, 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 you're fine. Like, Angie wants to like be a star. Like she wants to make her own money. She don't mind spending yours, but she want to make her own money. Yeah.
you. Yeah. I was cracking up though when she knew the card number by heart.
Oh,
Right?
I used
And
to
I'm
know
like, she
my
knew she was
daddy.
wrong for that.
I used to know my daddy's card number by heart when I was in college, and I used to call and order Chinese and give them that card number over the phone.
I ain't got time. I ain't got time.
Serious.
At least it's your dad. At least it won $50,000. That girl, she tried. That's why she came
Yes,
home.
yes.
He came home. She's like,
Right,
I'm
right,
here,
right.
ready for you. Ready. Like, yeah, you better be. Okay. He probably was like, girl.
But her little lingerie
Right.
set was so cute. I'm like,
It
I
was very
need
cute.
these little
Yeah, it
things to
was.
be walking around the house in. Like, she's
Yeah.
never in actual clothing. She's in the
Mhm.
house looking like I'm ready at any moment for you to dine,
I liked Quinn's lingerie too. I was like, ooh, this is really cute. Like the little
Yeah.
high
Mhm.
waist, little lace thing. I was like, hey, they
Yeah.
stepping out.
Alrighty, now on to our beloved Camille.
Mm.
Um, I think my biggest question here is, does Portia know?
Mm.
It's not clear.
Not
I feel
clear
like
yet.
she better know. She gotta know. It's 8 months, and that's why I don't. I wish they had given us like a montage to transition us to these 8 months. They just
Right.
dropped it there, but I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna finish this story, with some type of ending since they're gonna fast forward.
Mhm.
Um, I think she has to know. If she doesn't know, then I'm gonna be like, Ian, I'm done
Yeah.
with you. That's
Yeah.
where
And so they brought us in with the response text message to, what did he say? I can't wait, Mom, while he's sitting there at the
Yeah,
OBGYN with Portia.
Portia.
Yeah.
I think she knows because by this point, she's not pregnant. And remember, they were talking about I could be pregnant next month, like, and they were doing a little thing. And so
yeah.
I feel like she has to know because he's been quite active. The way they're kind of
Mhm.
playing it off, it's like he's been quite active in Camille's like the journey, going to the appointments, yada yada yada. And also that little like scene where Portia comes out to be like, "You have to taste this while it's hot" or whatever. And I'm like, "Okay, girl, we see what you're
Yeah.
doing," and I get it, I get it. But
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie. If I'd have been Portia, I would have exit that situation. I'm just like, you got a baby by a girl that you
Mhm.
was just in love with a few months ago. I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
But
I
she's
thought you
decided
meant you would exit the situation with her talking with him on the stoop, but you mean the whole
the
thing.
whole thing. I just feel like
So
because I'm not convinced they're not getting back together. And I
Yeah.
just kind of feel like, come on, Portia, girl, you haven't got pregnant yet. I understand y'all friends from childhood, but this is seeming messy in a way that could have been avoided. It's one thing
Yeah.
if y'all had been together for some years, took a break, you got Camille pregnant, blah, 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 like, but there wasn't that much history. But anyway, I think she knows.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And also, with like the I know we talked about this last week, but like the embryo situation, it's like she's locked herself into him for like I don't know if she has other eggs, but it sounded like it was like these are the
That's true.
they just made embryos with her eggs. So it's like
Yeah.
she's locked into him, at this point. I
Yeah.
feel like she wants to have kids in unless she just has them naturally. She still has, eggs and she can have them naturally. But
Hmm.
that's why I didn't like that decision. I felt like that was so quick. But
Yeah, and then she found out, like Camille found out. I couldn't tell where she was in her pregnancy when she ended up finding out that, you know,
When
they
did she?
were
I
taking
think it
the
was
embryo route. Yeah, it was
yeah.
in the third episode at some point, but it was kind of like, where in the pregnancy are you to just now be finding out? It was
True.
after the whole like insurance, or it was supposed to be the initial insurance conversation, which was
Mhm,
also the conversation where Portia actually came out. Now that I'm remembering it, out
mhm,
on the
Mhm.
mhm,
stoop. And so that's when she ended up telling her. He ended up telling her, like, we fertilized embryos. Um,
Mhm.
and that's when she was like, Nigga, you was supposed to tell me that. I made an
yeah,
informed decision
yeah,
Yeah.
without knowing this.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's when I was like, does she know? Like,
I don't
because
think
he
Portia knew at that point. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't even know. They need to tell us because
Yeah, I
it feels
agree.
like he's setting us up for that he didn't tell her, but I don't know. But I do
yeah,
know that like that situation of him not telling her was I totally felt her on that. Like 100% felt her. It's like she needed to know. And sometimes like I used to do child support I was a child support attorney, as you know, but the other folks who watch and don't know. And sometimes it's like the amount of information that is not shared, the amount of women who would come in and
Mhm.
like, oh, they think, and it's like, well, he has multiple other kids. They don't even know their kids got siblings. You know what I mean? And so the child support,
right,
everybody in there on one day, like, who's this or whatever. So I feel like people need to be vocal about it because it affects your ability to,
Mhm.
you know, decide do you want your children to have siblings at this point in a family unit versus you're the single parent. How is that experience going to be for that child who has to be like growing up as a basically as a twin but not in the full family home with their dad, and how is that
Mhm.
experience? I think she could have had the opportunity to think about that, and then if he had told her, she also could have had the opportunity to think about how much of a time split he would have to have between raising a child in his home and helping her. And she would definitely get the short end of that stick, to be honest,
right,
because
Yeah.
absolutely,
you can't say like, oh no, there's, you know, like he has another child. He has two children. And so
yeah,
Mhm.
I think we're starting to see that now with her. Like he is getting the short end of at least some of she's getting the short end of some of his time,
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
already.
yeah. Missing
Yeah.
out on the baby class, that pissed me off. But I do like that she was
Mhm.
like, I don't get to just have a good excuse and not be able to show up, which is
Yeah.
the reality of
Oh,
parenting. Like this
Mhm.
child has to come first. I hate that, your girlfriend's father had a stroke. However, I'm about to have your child, right? That
Mhm.
that you fully said you were gonna be here and participate in,
mhm,
and now you're telling me the moment something comes up in someone else's life, like
mhm.
you're willing to dip. Mm.
Yeah.
What did
I
you
mean,
think
it's
of that? Did you
hmm?
think that was a good excuse?
I didn't think that was a good excuse.
You didn't?
I
Mm-mm.
felt like he could
Not
have.
without telling her.
Yeah, I feel like he could have called her and
Communicate.
said, I know I'm supposed to be on my way to this class, or prior to making it like an urgency. Hey, I know we have this class today. Portia's father just had a stroke, right? Like, is there another class we can reschedule for? So then
Right.
she doesn't show up and like wondering where you are. You're not responding. Like, I feel like this
Agree.
is typical behavior of Ian of like not he doesn't communicate in the moment. It's like after the fact, Camille yells at him, he gets a defensive, and then later on he's like, "You know what? You right. You right." And
Yeah.
I'm like,
That my bad.
right, my bad. No, no, no. Just, like how many times must this happen? It happened with the embryos, it happened with the Lamas, it happened when you got with Portia. Like you need to begin
Happened
to
with the
develop
fiance.
Beyonce, right? You got to develop this skill of like, hey, I got to call people and let them know what's going on so they can have input, they can have some autonomy here. He doesn't do that. He just kind of like waits. And I'm like, I mean, it's cute now, but it's not cute when the baby comes and then you choosing to go to the family reunion over coming, I don't know, to your child's game. Not saying that he would do that, but I just feel like I understand that you have a commitment to Portia and supporting her and all the things. And it's not ideal situation, but you have to hold Camille in a high regard because she is like carrying your child.
Yeah, that's why I felt like it wasn't a good excuse. Like he
No.
was missing all the parts, and I feel like at this point, like please learn. Like how many
Mhm.
times do you have to be in this situation where you are lacking transparency and other people are
Yeah.
getting hurt because
Yeah.
of your lack of transparency? It's very toxic and it's getting really annoying to keep seeing.
Hmm.
Yeah. I will say I did think it was a good excuse because it was like Lamar's class, but I didn't think the way it was carried out. Like it wasn't like the birth or it wasn't like a doctor's appointment. It felt like, it was it's a prep, but it's not like the only one. It seemed like there was probably like a weekly or monthly, whatever class.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a good excuse. I just thought it was poor poorly executed, poorly communicated. That was the problem I had with it. But I, you know, and
I
he come
also
up. But
I
I
also
was
feel
say
like,
upset when the guy's there when he come
oh
at the end of the
yeah,
yeah,
like
good point,
no,
girl.
we can talk about that, and then I can segue into my thing in a bit. Yeah, like, the whole thing about, "Who this guy? What he's with a pregnant woman?" I'm like, "Okay, and come on now."
As if Camille is not worthy of somebody liking her just because she's pregnant.
Right, right.
And I
I
think
didn't
that
like that at all.
he
Yeah.
probably think that homegirl gonna just be like, okay, she pregnant. I can decide. I can figure out. Like I don't think it feels real for him. Like that she's not that he's moving on with Portia because she hasn't moved on, and he feels
Right.
maybe like she's in like
Mhm.
a waiting period because she's gonna not be able to deal with anybody for 9 months in his mind. But then
Mhm.
she came up here with oh boy, and yeah,
I
interesting.
love that reality check for him.
Me too. I loved it. I also like how they highlighted like the journey of like women who like have kids, like single mothers basically, and that journey of like being pregnant alone when you're still craving that like comfort and that like that masculine energy, but you're not necessarily getting it because maybe, you're not in relationship with your father, or maybe the same situation that's happening here, they're with someone else. And so they may be there to support with money and doctor's appointments, but then it's like, who's rubbing your feet? Who's rubbing
Right.
your back? Who's holding you at night? Like that kind of covering, that kind of that energy is necessary. And so I did feel for her that,
Yeah.
she's not getting that, even though she has her girlfriends. That's different than, getting that type of attention and that comfort from a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job of explaining all of what's going on with the single motherhood for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
The thing I was gonna say, another thing to add to that dynamic that I think could help is that Portia and Camille need to have a conversation, right? Like I don't understand why they haven't had a conversation about, okay, there was some awkwardness here, yada yada yada, but now we're forever gonna be in each other's lives, right? If you and Ian get married,
Mhm.
I'm always going to be the mother of Ian's child. Our kids, if you have kids, are going to be siblings. We need to have a better relationship because I do think that's possibly why Ian is just handling some of this quite poorly is he doesn't want to be in the middle of Portia and Camille and having to like have Portia mad at him at home, but then like Camille looking at him like, don't be a deadbeat dad. Like it is
Right.
putting him in a tough position. And so I'm like, Portia and Camille, have a conversation, right? It's time for you to talk. You're 8 months pregnant.
Absolutely.
Let's resolve this for the baby gets here. Because if Ian takes the baby overnight, inevitably, Portia, you're going to be there and you're going to help with whatever needs to be done, right? Like you're probably going to come to the hospital. Like you are part of this dynamic.
Yeah,
You're not
Yes.
separate, you know?
Yes.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree.
I'm really proud of Camille though. Um, I feel like she's evolving in
Mm.
communicating
Slowly
what
but
she
surely.
wants. Yeah. She's not being, impulsive as much. She did have
Mm.
that one moment where she showed up at
Ian's
Girl,
house. Where she
that's
goes,
why I said slowly but surely, because the way
yes.
she showed up on this man's porch and then yelling at him, I was like, Camille, get a hold of yourself.
Please.
she's pregnant. She's got
You're
hormones.
right.
Like,
It's the
Yeah,
hormones.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, girl, a text message on me, you can come over. And
Yeah,
furthermore, not out here yelling on the stoop. Like,
pregnant.
yeah. I feel like she hasn't accepted part of like the fact that it's like, oh, he is in something else. So like I feel like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of her character is struggling with that, I guess, you know.
yeah.
yeah,
But she did
Um
say, like, again, to what Chi Chi said, I think in the last episode, she was brave to say, like, I need you as a friend,
yeah,
like
you did.
I need that comfort. Like we used to
mhm,
be friends, and so let's try and figure out how we can be friends through this.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it doesn't seem like she's trying to be messy or like be romantic with Ian. So
yeah.
But I
yeah,
have a feeling when they start
yeah,
hanging out, doing their thing, I'm like, oh,
Right. Yeah, and it's like, why they setting this up like this? Like y'all could
yes,
like that's the only reason why I'm not really feeling their get back together. But maybe they don't get back together. Maybe we're wrong. I don't know.
yeah.
I
And what
think
did
it's
y'all
gonna be
think
a little
about
too.
Steph's friend?
Oh,
Uh, interesting.
hmm.
I was like, he's
He wasn't cute.
She's not cute. I was like, they could have gave her somebody fine. How you go from Ian to
It's like,
this?
who is this?
No offense, sir. No offense. No offense.
Oh my
Oh yeah.
god!
But
I
Ian
thought he
is fine.
Yeah, I thought he was a decent looking person.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't uh unattractive or something like that. But he was not Ian's level of attractiveness.
I
But
like, you
I
know,
wondered,
to come in with somebody just
Yeah. When he
abundantly
came in, I
umptious
was
that
like, this
even
ain't
a man
it.
can't say ain't good looking. But
This ain't
Camille.
it. But I was happy that he was, like, hey, everyone needs some love. He took her home. I mean, he was a gentleman.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I was like, this ain't it, Camille.
Yeah, this ain't it. I did not like, however, how they was like, your man, something about like your man, I feel bad for your man or whatever he said to like try and figure out whether or not she
Man,
was
but
in
like
a relationship. I was like, they could have figured out a better way for her to reveal that she's not with the father of her child versus the whole like kind of being messy and like hitting on someone who you would assume is with someone.
Right.
That
yeah,
was,
no,
I didn't like that part of it. I was like, Camille deserves better, y'all. Like,
yeah, I felt like I had the same thought. I was like, they could have had it come out when she could have said something because she was kind of making these jokes about like, oh, like here I am alone. She could have made some. I don't want to say I wanted her to make a self-deprecating joke, but like she could have made some joke about like, here I am doing this by myself or whatever. And so he was aware,
where,
and then
right?
you know what
Because deep
Yeah,
down,
girl,
Camille
you're
wants,
gorgeous. Like,
yeah.
or something. I don't know. Not that that
Mm.
makes somebody be more likely or less likely to do it by himself, but that could have been the end, like, you're gorgeous. Like,
right,
I love
right,
Mhm.
lunch. You deserve a little, it would have been a nice, because she's like complaining about whatever, and he finds out that way. It would have been nice. Like, I'm gonna treat you to some lunch. You seem like you're having a difficult time, and it didn't have to be always like, who's gonna
right,
rub your feet was like a little nice, but at the same time, it's like, I just met you, sir. Just
right.
met
Yeah.
Just
you.
met you. Just,
It was
just
an awkward segue.
very
Yeah, yeah.
awkward.
I really love that they touched on like these financial things. Like I said,
Mhm.
I was a child support attorney, and nothing grinds my gears more than seeing men complain about taking care or how much it costs or whatever the case may be. So I
Yeah,
loved, as much as we may say about Ian, he said, "What is it? No, no, you don't got to show me no receipts," because I have had people in court asking, like, she got to prove that she is like, using it on the kids. It's like, are you paying for school lunches every day? Like, are you
Right.
paying for the light bill at keep the lights on at your kid's house? Are you paying for these new clothes? Are you paying for these things? She's spending the money on those things, and it's probably not even enough to cover what's
right.
Right.
happening. Won't be out here asking people for receipts. I feel like that to me is the biggest hallmark to me of a marker of an immature man. Like,
Yeah,
asking
Mhm.
for receipts, it's like, stop it.
yeah.
Like,
I
stop.
can only imagine what you witnessed as a child support lawyer.
Mhm.
Get up
Yeah,
out of that.
yeah, yeah.
'Cause,
What
yeah.
a like stark contrast, right? To like be raised by and grow up with these very strong,
Yeah.
equipped men, and then to see that on a day to day at work. I'm sure it's probably feels very just ugh.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not doing it no more. Like, I'm out of that now. But yeah, I enjoyed them showing that from
Yeah.
him, and I also felt like it was really good for them to talk about the insurance because it is expensive,
It's
and I love
Mhm.
it was a good plot to have her because she did leave her job and she's doing this
Yeah.
freelance.
I was gonna say also, like when you do leave your job, I forgot what the program is called. Is it Cobra? I think it might
Cool.
be called Cobra. Yeah. To like see if you can get enrolled in Cobra. That's just for people who do end up leaving jobs or like they get laid off.
Mm,
There is something called Cobra where it would give you something that is give you a plan that's similar to what you had while you had the job. Just because like if you go into the Obamacare plans, right, like it's a stark difference probably from what you had in like your group plan at your job. So just a little
Mhm.
tidbit there for people.
that's good to know.
Okay. I feel like these episodes, I feel like they covered a lot of good like themes, right? Like Quinn, the poly with Ty, the coming out story, her growth, like being loved and healing in love. Camille, like we're starting to see her mature, the journey of being a single mother and pregnant, the insurance stuff, the embryos, like they covered like a lot of good things. And even though it was like quite compacted, because of course we're looking at this story over the course of like 8 months, which I love how they like are timing it by her pregnancy, which I think is really
Pregnancy, yeah.
interesting. Yeah, that's nice. But yeah, any other themes or like cultural references that you all feel like we didn't touch on?
But that's the good thing about this show, right? Like it really does. It does
It
a
does
good job
cover
of
a
trying
lot.
to cover real life stuff that's constantly happening.
Yeah.
For
Oh, yeah,
people.
because the social media stuff being like canceled online. Yeah.
Right, right,
They did
right.
a good
But
job with these
they're
two
keeping up. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Even before when Camille was given the option, like they said, like, because you're in the state of New York, like you can have an abortion, right? Like
Oh,
that's
yeah. They're keeping
that's also
current with that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So, any final thoughts on the episodes and where we are with the season? And if you have any predictions or things you're looking forward to in the next episodes or the final, because the next week is the final.
The
Like these people tried it.
I can't
Episodes. It's
believe
like,
they're only giving us 6.
I wonder
right?
why that is though.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. Like I feel like why did they cut it so short?
Yeah.
I
The
feel like it's
timeline is moving really fast too.
yeah.
It
Like
is. Yeah.
it's like I have so many questions because there's so many gaps in time, which I get it, but I wish I knew, why this is happening. Like why are we ending Harlem? Like why
Yeah.
can't they tell us?
We could use a
I'm
fourth, fifth,
sure
sixth season.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just related to like, you know, our shows do tend to get
Oh, yeah.
canceled, and so
They
I
do.
do feel like I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I feel like it's a good show, but 6 episodes was like I was like they was being stingy.
Yeah, they could have gave us 10.
Yeah. We could have got a good 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any
Um,
prediction, you know?
I think I'm predicting something is going to happen between Camille and Ian. I don't know if they're going to get together, but I imagine there's going to be a look, a touch, a peck, something. It's going to happen during a hangout, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um I think Quinn and that guy are probably going to end up breaking up and then he's going to be like, "You know what? I love you and I don't want to be Polly anymore." I don't know. Those are my predictions. I don't know what I'm thinking for Angie.
Yeah, because
I'm
my
hoping
prediction
that now that Mike has been open and will at least try to be open about these issues he has with his family, that it just turns into an opportunity for good conversations with them so that they can have the love that it seems like they both really want with each other. I
Mhm.
really do hope that for Angie.
Yeah.
Angie's my favorite, so I need her to end up with her both.
Yeah, me
Mhm.
too. I like Angie.
Yeah, I don't. The only relationship I feel like is for sure gonna last and match up is ties, and I
Yeah.
feel like um Camille and Ian. I think they might surprise us and not have Ian and Camille together because they're walking down this road so far. It's almost I feel like you would be a little bit Ian would be a little bit of a villainized a little bit to not move forward to break Portia's heart after like they're already at 8 months in. They've been
Yeah.
together almost a year at this point, him and
Or
Portia.
Portia did it,
Right?
right? I guess
Or
personally, I'm like, Portia,
oh,
honey,
you was right.
right? Portia could
You
do it. Portia could realize, like, I don't want to be
right.
in this mess between y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they gonna do that because they want to keep Ian's reputation intact, his image. So they probably would.
Yeah, so while we are here, I think it's great to go ahead and give a shout out to Shaniqua Shandai, that is who plays Angie. She just came out with her new single. So if y'all haven't heard it, check it
Yeah,
out. I think it's called Feel My Love.
yeah.
Um, but
She has a
yes,
lovely
our girl, the
voice.
singer.
Lovely voice. And
She
she's
Yeah.
been
does.
like shouting us out on like or like tagging.
Yes.
I was like, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
she followed us on TikTok. Um,
She
Yeah.
did.
that was great. She did, yeah. She follows on TikTok and like went down a little spree and like she said on the
Like,
Instagram
Oh,
that she enjoyed going through our TikTok.
hey, that's funny. I
oh,
swear I'm over there to follow us on all platforms.
Yay.
We do different things on different platforms. So
Right.
like show, and then we have like, you know, different reels and different conversation pieces on Instagram and on TikTok. And so yeah, like give us, you know, that like, review, you know, comment below what you're thinking, what your thoughts were on this episode, thumbs up, notification, subscribe, all of it. So
Yes. And catch us at our next episode. We will be reviewing The Bachelor. Ta-ta for now.
hey ladies, bye.
Bye.